Welcome to the Sports Tech HQ podcast, the show where we dive into the latest innovations revolutionizing the world of sports. I'm Jeff Hintz, and today I'm thrilled to be joined by Gavin Ferlic, the co-founder and CEO of TayCo Brace, based here in Indiana. Gavin has an impressive background, having led several startups, worked in venture capital, and served as corporation counsel for an advertising company. At TayCo Brace, he's changing the game for athletes and patients by introducing a revolutionary ankle brace designed to enhance mobility and speed up recovery. Gavin, thanks for being here today.
Thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, all the way down from northern Indiana?
Yeah, South Bend with that new bypass around Kokomo. It's a pretty quick trip.
Oh, that's great. Okay, so let's start at the beginning. The brace is really revolutionary. I played sports growing up and I've certainly twisted my ankle, broke my ankle playing basketball here in Indiana growing up. And where did the idea start from?
Yeah, so athletic trainer in Notre Dame, Mike Bean, works for the football team, actually saw a paratrooper coming in before a game. They sometimes do that, right? Carrying the flag, kind of something exciting before a game. And saw kind of a external stirrup, if you will, outside of the combat boot, protecting the ankle.
On the fall.
Yeah,
coming down.
Exactly. And so kind of noticed that and maybe asked a couple questions, but thought to himself, that's providing some kind of, rigidity in one plane, but what if I could put a hinge on this essentially, right? And, make a brace that not only protects the ankle laterally and rotationally, but also allows for plantar flexion and dorsiflexion, right? So you can still have protection where you need it, but it gives you the ability to be mobile, right? And functional.
Sure.
So he had that idea after seeing the paratrooper come in, which was pretty cool. And, played around with the design and really just ended up designing something really revolutionary. Not only, is it easier to put on in-game, right? That's where he saw the initial use. If you have a player that goes down with an ankle injury, current state, you take the shoe off, ankle balloons up, a lot of swelling, and then you're putting on an internal ankle brace. You're having to find a shoe that's 1 or 2 sizes bigger so you can fit that thing back in.
Tape it up.
Yeah, said, it's probably going to be a quarter, right, before you get that player back in the game.
Sure.
So he initially saw, okay, this will be a quick application, right, going outside the shoe. But then ultimately really found that stability-wise, because it braces the outside of the shoe, it's even more stable. So all the credit to Mike for really coming up with a great design. It's just been a great product ever since.
So a paratrooper led to this innovation.
Yep.
And what year was that?
Oh, gosh. It was probably in the 2010s.
Okay.
Yep.
So mid 2010s this happens. And how long did it take to transfer to the field?
Yeah, great question. So Mike, maybe in 2016 started, making some prototypes, obviously patented the device through the university. But really quickly, there's a great orthotics company in South Bend called SureStep. They also have Transcend Orthotics and Prosthetics, but they manufacture orthotics, prosthetics right in South Bend. And so he had a great partner that he could connect with to prototype the device and essentially just use it in the field, right? And he has a great story of, a player came off the field. He had made a couple prototypes. Player came off the field, was really struggling with that internal ankle brace, really having a tough time.
Okay.
He said, hey, want to give this a go? They tried it out, and it was just night and day. Player said, this is incredible. I feel so stable, but I can still move.
Okay.
And so just one of those things, right, where, necessity is the mother of invention, and so just needed a solution, developed a really good prototype, and then was able to test it with some of the best athletes in the world and got great feedback, iterated a little bit on the design.
Sure.
But just really, really innovated the way, you're essentially supposed to, right? As opposed to innovating in a vacuum, right?
Sure.
Innovated for a real need and made sure that what he was developing was going to be something really effective for the athletes.
Okay, that's great.
Yeah.
Really, really cool story. So I want you to tell us a little bit about the brace, but before, can you tell us about the name? Where
Absolutely.
did TayCo Brace come from?
Yeah, great. So this is, again, from all the credit to Mike, because I love the name, right?
Yeah.
Even if you don't know the origin story, but great origin story. So his daughters' names are Taylor and Courtney.
Ah.
His wife's name is Colleen. And so he
Okay.
was able to fit all three names in there, which was pretty cool.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's the name.
Yep.
So if you wouldn't mind, obviously we have listeners too. Could you describe the brace? Maybe show us
Yeah.
too for those that are watching. But
Yeah.
what are we looking at here, and kind of where does the stability come from in the brace?
Yeah, great question. And so the brace, relative to any other ankle brace you've really ever seen, TayCo Brace fits outside the shoe, right? If you took a look, if you're watching the video and you took a look right now, you wouldn't necessarily know that it fits inside or outside the shoe,
That's
right?
right.
I could put this on my shoe right now and you would see it fits outside the shoe.
Yep.
Has a stirrup strap that runs underneath the shoe, right, to hold the brace in place. Dorsal straps, some straps that go around your lower leg. But essentially has a hinge. Another advantage over other braces is it does extend a little bit farther down the midfoot, right? So it provides a little bit of that midfoot stability.
Okay.
This also allows for a little bit more overall stability. We've actually, biomechanical studies show this is about, I want to say it provides 240% of the stability of an inside the shoe ankle brace.
Oh, wow.
So a lot of stability, but also really comfortable because you're not having to, the shoes have, sure you're wearing your shoes right now, they have a limited amount of room in them,
Sure.
right? So adding something else to that equation, stuffing something else in there, that's not comfortable for anybody, right? So not only is this more comfortable, but it's also more stable. So yeah, essentially this fits outside these, ankle joints are right where your, what's called the medial and lateral malleolus, right? Your malleoli are, those ankle joints you see. And so, the brace pivots with those. So you still have complete plantar flexion and dorsiflexion. That's the other great thing why a lot of NFL and college ball players love this is because it doesn't restrict them as well, right? And so not only does it provide the lateral and rotational stability superior to the inside the shoe ankle brace, but it also provides less resistance in plantar flexion, dorsiflexion.
Okay.
So you have more explosiveness, more speed. So yeah, and then, just essentially, because, it doesn't fit inside the shoe, it also doesn't need to have anything. A lot of internal ankle braces, they have to have some component that fits directly against your heel, right? Whereas TayCo uses a foot plate surrounding the shoe rather than necessarily underneath the foot. So, when you wear a shoe, you're getting that nice insole, that nice cushion, or if you wear your own orthotic, you're getting that nice cushion, that nice orthotic. Whereas, unfortunately, with a lot of inside the shoe ankle braces, they have to put something rigid underneath your heel, which also isn't very comfortable, right? And it's not forming to your ankle. So there's just some limitations in what inside the shoe ankle braces can do that, the external ankle brace, the TayCo, solves.
Sure. Okay. Different sizes for different sizes of human wearing this. Yeah. So you can order kind of different sizes, small, medium, large type of thing.
Yeah. Small up to double XL. So, right, we have a double XL that fits
the lineman for
16 through 18.
16 through 18 shoe.
We made a custom brace for, there's a kid, high school ball player in Michigan. He's a size 23. He has the largest feet of any teenager, largest feet and hands. He's actually going in the Guinness Book.
I think I read that the other day. Yeah, he's huge.
Yeah. And so Shaquille O'Neal got him some shoes, right? Because Shaq's the size 22. 23. But he's the size 23. And
he's young, right?
Yeah, and so we worked with the high school and made him, some braces to stabilize him because he needed that.
Custom.
So,
Wow.
Yeah. But it fits also anatomically, right? Which is somewhat unique in the foot and ankle space. A lot of places are just, hey, you get a small, medium, or large, right? The ankle is not symmetrical, right? If you looked at your ankle, you wouldn't see, you wouldn't see both malleoli lined up,
right across from each other.
There's some asymmetry, and we accommodate for
see that now.
That not only makes it more stable, but it makes it more comfortable as well.
Okay, preventative mostly, or is this, coming off an injury to provide stability and kind of confidence for the athlete?
Yes. So both. So preventatively, we have, teams, a lot of college teams, Kansas State, Alabama, Wake Forest, Purdue, schools like that will use this prophylactically. So they know that they want to get their linemen in this, especially offensive linemen. It's a high rate of ankle injury in that position. And so they'll outfit some of their players and make sure they're safe and, stable during practice, during games. And then a lot of programs will use this once a player has some ankle instability or once they have an injury. So it can be used for both, right? It can be used for protection initially, and then it can also be used once you have an injury as you know, right? Once you sprain your ankle or once you have an injury,
more likely to do it again.
You're more likely to do it again, right? And so getting in this brace can hopefully provide that stability and confidence to play at a high level.
I think the big thing coming off an injury is just having the confidence that you're fully ready to come back.
Oh yeah, 100%.
I'm sure it's different now than what it was when I played, but you go back on the court for the first time after you sprain an ankle and you're out a couple of weeks, like, okay, this could give out.
Oh yeah,
on the first play, and just have that in the back of your mind versus being able to, be free to play. So, so you mentioned a couple big name programs. I think I heard Alabama.
Yep.
I didn't hear Indiana University, so that's my alma mater.
No, IU.
Okay, good.
We've had about I want to say over 90 NCAA teams.
90.
Yeah.
Okay.
90, and then I think 25 NFL teams have now used it.
Oh my gosh, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
So how'd you crack in? Is it the Notre Dame kind of, that's where it started, and you're able to, is just the brand power with Notre Dame and kind of the technology coming out of that and being iterated there? Has that been helpful?
Absolutely. Yeah. Right. So Notre Dame's an elite brand in football and in athletics. And so something, developed at the university, but also something that was, tested and worn by players at the university, gave, I think, other people confidence. Yeah. The other neat thing, I think, where this brace has really taken off in the athletic space is just necessity, right? And so there's really no other brace that can do what our brace does. Right. And so if you're looking to stay in your shoe, if you're looking to have the best stability with also a good mix of comfort, we're kind of an N of one, right? We're the only solution. And so, really with a pretty limited marketing effort and budget in the athletic space, we've kind of grown organically just because
copycat, they see each other with it on, right?
Sure. Yeah. They talk, and the athletic trainers at different conferences and things like that will talk about, hey, what solution, or, hey, I noticed, you had this player with a high ankle sprain. My guys are out 4 to 6 weeks, right? You got your guy back in a week, right? Yeah. And so there's just been some good positive communication. We're so grateful to all the athletic trainers and physicians that have supported us, because they're really, they've really championed it, right? They're really the reason why this has taken off, is because they believe in it, and they put their trust in us and in the product, and we're just, incredibly grateful.
Yeah. Pretty remarkable, all in the span of really just a handful of years, that you've grown into 20 plus NFL teams and 90 college teams. Yeah. What about high school? Are you going down into the high school level?
That's the exciting thing now. So for the first number of years of our company, our athletic brace was made with a vacuum forming process. It was made by hand. All to say, very relatively expensive product. And we couldn't make all that much of, we couldn't make that many, right? Limited production capacity. Okay. The product we just released about 3 weeks ago, it's injection molded. So we do have the ability to make a lot more. The design is phenomenal. So we worked with athletic trainers across the country, as well as the Department of Defense, a lot of folks in the Department of Defense, to make sure that this was just an exceptional brace for athletes, military, everyday patients wearing it. But now we have a better price point, right? So because we're able to mass produce this, we can lower our price point to customers. But also we have the ability just to make enough to keep up with the capacity, where in the past we've reserved this for, college and pro football teams, because we could only make so many, and we needed to make sure that we were serving them.
Okay. So you mentioned Department of Defense. This is something for the war fighter?
Yes.
Preventative measures.
Yep.
Wow.
And so great solution. We're currently working on some testing, but we've had some folks jumping out of airplanes with it. So
back to the roots.
Yeah, exactly.
Back to the beginning.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it's a great kind of full circle story, but that profession has the highest rate of ankle injury in the world, and it's not even close, right? The parachutes, you always think of parachutes, when you see people up parachuting in the sky, they're coming down pretty gently. Yeah, the military parachutes, they're designed to get you on the ground as fast as possible, right?
Okay.
So you're not sitting up there with enemy fire.
Sure.
And so you're coming down with a lot of force. And so there's a lot of ankle injuries. So we designed the brace to benefit those folks, really stabilize and help preserve some of those ankles, both in the short term, right? Keep those war fighters healthy, but also in the long term, right? You land awkwardly enough on some uneven ground coming out of an airplane. You're just, by the time you're 50, 60, you're going to have some bad problems. And so we're hoping that'll not only help, the war fighter now, but also veterans in the future. And then, even folks that are, say you've got a night mission and you're out rucking, for 3 hours at night. Yeah. Right? You're on uneven terrain. You're carrying a big pack. You're, it's tough. It's tough to keep your ankles stable. And we talk to athletic trainers that take care of these war fighters, and they say, yeah, every time we do a mission like that, our training, right, we're coming back with some significant ankle injuries, right?
Sure.
And so you can prophylactically brace those folks, especially in training, and just make sure that they're safe, healthy, and have the support they need to execute them.
So how'd you get noticed from the Department of Defense? How does that work?
Great question. So Indiana has done a phenomenal job through Elevate Ventures and a number of other partners with the SBI or STTR program in terms of promoting that. And so it was something that wasn't necessarily on our radar, right? We were focused on athletics, and we're also focused on the general patient population, right? We work with orthopedic surgeons, podiatrists all across the country, right, to get braces to their patients. But with Indiana's effort behind making sure companies like ours are aware of SBIR and STTR opportunities, and that the Department of Defense and other agencies, right? But for us, the Department of Defense is looking for solutions like this, right? They're looking to keep their war fighters healthy, right? They're looking to keep their soldiers, healthy, not just now, but in the long term. And so found some good opportunities to partner, but all the credit in the world to Elevate Ventures in the state of Indiana for their leadership in making sure that we were aware about those opportunities and providing us with support to obtain those opportunities. It's been a really great thing for our business.
Okay, that's good. Yeah, one of the trends that we've noticed is there's a lot of the adjacencies to sports tech, military tech. One of those, you talk about a premium or an elite athlete. Yeah, that's and a lot more important to our safety and security than somebody on a football field. No offense to those on the football field, but we got to make sure those folks stay healthy. So
and there's also there's the industrial athlete too, right? You think about all these people that need to be active and need to function at a high level, and then you think about we're a great solution for workers' compensation, or just say somebody sprains their ankle playing basketball over the weekend, but they can't go back to work in a walking boot.
That'd be me,
right? And your family's dependent on a paycheck, right? Person wants to get back to work, but they're in that walking boot, so they can't. So TayCo fits comfortably over a steel-toed shoe. It fits over a safety shoe. Because that's another big use we've seen is the industrial athlete, just getting people back to work, and that also feels great, right? Because somebody's not missing a paycheck for weeks on end, right? They can get back to work, they can contribute to their company, and so just another great athletic use that you maybe wouldn't think of traditionally.
Sure. Okay, so let's talk about price point.
Sure.
Where are you at with pricing?
So used to with our old brace was $275 with the vacuum forming. With injection molding, we're now available on our website for $199.
Okay.
Yeah.
$199.
Yeah. So it's right at that. It's at a premium price point with a few other braces, but we do have a 100% satisfaction guarantee. And so if folks are interested, if they've got instability in their ankle, but they love to run, or they love to play pickleball, or they just want to be active, right? Give it a shot. If it doesn't work, we'll certainly get a full refund. But at the same time, we get very few returns because people that are in need of the solution just love the solution. And it is still a very premium product, right? We use, there was an opportunity for us, right, to make something less expensive, right? Just not as good of a product. But this stirrup strap has Kevlar, right?
Okay, I was going to ask because that's hitting the ground.
Yeah.
In many cases.
Got Kevlar reinforcement in the bottom, which is expensive, right?
Bulletproof vest, right? Kevlar.
That's what they're made out of. Yeah. And then premium strapping that costs us a little bit more. Premium padding, this neoprene padding. We get feedback from people. It feels like a cloud.
Sure.
Right. And so ultimately, right, it is still a premium product with a premium price point, but we were happy to be able to reduce that and then, make it available for the, everyday athlete,
right?
High school athlete.
Yeah. I mean, in high school, I've got a high school kiddo and his equipment costs aren't cheap, So, it's really interesting. I just had a thought about the future and thinking about tech in this piece and where it's going, and maybe it's future planning, but, could there be onboard tech here to provide data back to the physicians and the team to, for range of motion, and is really interesting data that could potentially come off of this device, right?
Yeah.
On the road to recovery.
Yeah. Great question. Great observation. And, relative to anything that fits inside your shoe, we're not constrained by that geometry.
Sure.
Right. And so we don't have the same constraints in terms of, further applications and developing different innovations. We're in a really unique position where because we don't have to fit something inside the shoe. We're not constrained by any sort of space requirements.
Okay.
We can do some pretty cool stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's really interesting to think about. Everything's connected now. And
Yeah.
why not this?
Yeah.
I think about ankle injuries in general, and it seems as though, and some of the research that I've heard, the ankle injury is probably the most prominent injury on a field or on a court for an athlete.
Yep.
You know, probably football, maybe more knees. Basketball for sure, ankle. Have you done some of the research around kind of injury prevention? And then, I think about as a roster builder or as a GM of a team or a coach of a team, or keeping your assets on the field for all the games is really important to make sure that you have a good recipe to win.
Yeah.
And so, if you've done the numbers, can you tell us a little bit about ankle injuries in general?
Yeah. So ankle sprain is the most common musculoskeletal injury in the world, right? And so to your point, more common than anything, right? More common than knee injuries or shoulder injuries,
Sure.
anything like that. And yeah, from a prophylactic perspective, we do have a lot of, teams and athletic trainers that are trusting us, right, before the injury happens to prevent it.
Yep.
And then we do have some, interesting research that shows a faster return to play.
Yes.
When you're wearing TayCo
Super
Brace
important.
after an injury.
Yeah.
And also, so that's, a number of days or weeks, right, that we can speed up that return to play. But where, again, athletic trainers really like this is in game, right? As you know, right, the All-American left tackle,
Yes.
right? The backup might not be quite as good, right?
Yeah, right.
And so getting that player back out, or think of a starting center or something like that, where
Sure.
it's so crucial not only to read the line but to
Every
make
play.
the snap.
Yep.
And so if they do have an ankle injury in game, but it's not significant enough where they can't play, that's another great thing, right? Just the speed of returning that starting player back to the starting lineup.
Sure.
Because the player can come off, they have these ready to go on the sideline, apply it, spat it on, and within the same series, right? Oftentimes, heck, during a TV timeout, right, that player can be back on the field. It's pretty cool to watch when we're watching games and we see a player. We don't ever want a player to have an ankle injury,
tweak
right?
their ankle or whatever.
But when they do, right, and then they're down, then they come off the field, and then we see there's a media timeout, and we see, right, they have to oftentimes not play the next play, right, because they've had an injury.
Yep.
But then we see them checking right back in, and you can see oftentimes they tape over our brace, but you can see just a little circle.
I see.
Right,
to allow for the range of motion.
Around the malleoli.
Yeah.
And you can see that's how you kind of know around the tape, you can kind of just see that circle.
I gotcha.
And it's just a really cool thing when you're watching the game to see, oh yeah, they're wearing TayCo.
There's probably a whole class on how to tape that.
It's super
right?
easy for an athletic trainer. It's the same way you tape over an ankle. I think it's called a figure eight.
Okay.
That they do. But the same way you tape traditionally with an ankle, you just tape over the brace.
Sure. Okay. I mentioned just a thought for innovation. What are your thoughts for the future innovations? Do you have anything in mind that you'd want to share that we're not trying to look into the future, but what kind of ideas you have around innovation with the brace or other braces?
Yeah. So we're working with DoD on a few solutions, right? We want to make sure that, say a warfighter, if out in the field, right, something happens and there's one medic for, 20 soldiers or something like that, right? We want to make sure that, we've got a solution for a situation like that. We want to make sure that when physicians prescribe TayCo after a total ankle replacement or a surgery, right, we want to make sure that that patient is compliant and getting the best outcomes they possibly can. And so, we've got a whole host of different innovations. But what I will say too is it's always fun to kind of think about the things you'd consider a little bit higher tech.
Yeah.
What I can really appreciate about this, and I've worked in venture capital before, and so there's super futuristic, super high tech ideas that are out there. You think about that, Neuralink?
Oh, sure.
That, right, where you're instead of looking at your phone, you would literally think to yourself, right, what is this? Or people are playing video games now, just thinking about it.
Yeah.
That's phenomenal, right? Yeah. And so kudos to whoever is thinking about the highest of high tech.
Yeah.
But what I can really appreciate is just a different approach that maybe seems a little bit less techy, right? But just the impact of thinking about things in a different way, right? It doesn't necessarily need to be some moonshot, right, that you're doing, right? So just Mike's ability to see, okay, why do we brace inside the shoe? right? Why not brace the outside of the
Sure.
shoe and develop something that's more comfortable, more stable, and just delivers much better results? Like,
Yeah.
I have a ton of respect for that, right?
Yeah.
Because I think,
Right.
again, in venture capital, especially, and working in there, we have a tendency to look at these moonshots, right?
Yeah.
And think,
Big bet.
oh my gosh, yeah, these huge bets where, sometimes just what you would consider so simple, where every time we introduce this to an athletic trainer or physician, the number one thing we hear is, how did I not think of that?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Those are sometimes the best ideas,
Yeah.
right?
That's right.
They're right there in front of you, but for some reason
They're in it every day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And only Mike Bean can see it.
Yeah. That's cool.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Okay. So you talked a little bit about venture capital. I want to get into your background, learn a little bit more.
Yeah.
Discovered maybe you're in the golf business.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah.
Way back in the day.
Yeah.
I was in the golf business for about 20 years. So,
Nice.
so how did you tell us about your journey?
Yeah.
You have venture capital. You've obviously been a part of startups,
Yep.
law degree.
Yep.
So talk to us about your background.
Yeah. So grew up in South Bend. Huge Notre Dame fan. So when I got
Shocker.
when I got a scholarship to play golf for the golf team.
Oh, you did? Okay.
Yeah.
Nice.
Couldn't say no to that.
Okay.
And then after graduation, just always had a dream to play professional golf. So tried the mini tour circuit and played the Canadian tour for a year. Played the Hooters tour, which is kind of the equivalent of AA baseball.
Sure.
Right.
Yeah.
And so played some minor league golf, which was a lot of fun. I came back, just worked a year in marketing for a minor league baseball club, which is now the South Bend Cubs in South Bend.
I've been to that stadium before.
Great experience.
Yeah.
And then went to IU, your alma mater, and got a JD MBA. Speaking of the Hoosiers, they're playing some good football.
Yes, they are.
Yeah. It's been a lot of fun to watch.
Yes.
But did a JD MBA at IU, had a great experience, and focused on entrepreneurship.
Yep.
After that, ran a couple startups. Through that experience, was connected with Elevate Ventures, a venture capital firm. Worked with them for 3.5 years. Also great experience. And then had interest in getting back over the operator side. So that's where TayCo came about. And yeah.
So how'd you get hooked up to be on the operator side? You knew Mike.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Knew Mike, and then had actually initially seen the technology and actually had shown it to my dad, who's a retired orthopedic surgeon.
Okay.
And he just thought the world of it, not only for athletics, but really saw a need in especially senior patients.
Sure.
Right, where senior patients currently in a walking boot, right, they have sometimes have a tough time with balance as it is.
Oh, sure.
Right, and putting them in a walking boot can really be challenging. From his experience, he saw people that were just sitting around the house, deconditioning, watching TV when they should be, walking, grocery shopping, right, living their life.
Right.
And so he saw a real opportunity for helping people there. So, just kind of once I saw that excitement, just I decided to take the leap and start the business.
How big's the team?
We have 9 people.
9 total.
Yeah.
Okay, that's great. So of all your skills, you've been a CEO, you've had a legal background, you've been an entrepreneur, venture capital, working with Elevate and investing in companies like TayCo and others, or like this. What would you say the skill set that you pull the most from?
Yeah, great question.
For you.
What I focus on most with our business, believe it or not, it is customer service.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just something to me that, maybe it's, experience. My dad, as an orthopedic surgeon, always did such a great job making sure that his patients were taken care of, right? And my mom was super active in the community with philanthropy and just making sure people are taken care of. So maybe it's that background, and maybe it's, what they call Hoosier hospitality, right? Growing up in the state of Indiana.
Sure.
That's something I'd say, we just take a lot of pride in, and that's something that I focus on a lot, is just making sure that our customers, whether that's physician offices, athletic trainers, or patients or athletes, just making sure that they have just an outstanding experience, right? Making sure when they call, they're talking to a human being that's there to help them.
Yeah.
And so if I'm looking at maybe the best, my best skill set, it might be that customer experience.
Service, which is really interesting because you think about, legal background, MBA background, entrepreneur. It reminds me of the founder of Zappos,
Yeah.
Tony.
Oh, he spoke at Idea Week a few years
Did
ago,
he?
and I know
Yeah, he's no
unfortunately
longer with
since
us.
passed,
Yeah.
but spoke at Idea Week a few years ago and just loved his speech, and I loved just some of the stories, right? You could order a pizza from him.
Yeah, there
Right.
wasn't a whole lot of love for shoes from him. It was all about customer
Yeah.
service.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a good lesson, I think,
Yeah.
for people out there, because you obviously have a great product, but you've got to support it with the customer service and be there to answer questions and all that. And you don't need a law degree. I mean, you have one, which is great, but you don't need a law degree to do that.
Yeah.
So really cool. How about, any advice, especially like around growing a company? I imagine you've gone into, so you're competing in the pitch competition. And so you've probably gone through, a raise period. Maybe you're still raising, if you can shed some light on that. And maybe any advice for an early stage startup, looking to raise funds, and some tips.
Yeah, absolutely. So we were really fortunate. We did a pre-seed round with the owner of our manufacturer, and the Pit Road Fund participated in that pre-seed round, and then we raised a seed round. I want to say it was in 2020 or 2021 is when we closed that. We haven't had to raise since, which has been great, but obviously raising money is great too, right? Especially if you can find we've had great investors and great partners, and that's, if I'm offering advice, it would be, make sure that, if you can find somebody that doesn't just offer the dollars, right, but offers you some value outside of that.
Mentorship, expertise in the industry.
Really important. Yeah. And then the big thing I would say in terms of raising is make sure there's traction, right? If you're building a company looking to raise, in my time with venture capital, you run into a lot of entrepreneurs that are working on something really cool, right? But they might be working on it in a bit of a vacuum, right? And so make sure that you have some customers, right? Making sure you're hearing their feedback, and make sure that you've also kind of built something, right? Where a lot of times it's software development. You'll run into somebody who's got a great idea, and they'll say, we're raising $2 million to hire a team to build out the platform. Yeah. That's great if you can convince somebody to do it, but it's a tough ask. And maybe a better route would be find a team that can do it, right? Sure. Instead of giving up your equity to an investor to hire people, split your equity with a founding team and build a product. Yeah. And then go ahead and release it. So
that's great.
And that advice, even outside of software, right, where a lot of people need money to develop and build, right, as opposed to taking on money, and where it's going to be tough to raise without that initial prototype, right, or that initial traction. Build that traction, build that prototype by using that equity to build out a team.
Right. Yeah, that's a great piece of advice. Love that. Yeah. Patent protected here?
Yeah. We've got 3 issued patents. We've filed for, maybe 10 more or something like that. So we're filing aggressively, and we've got some great protection as it is. And we're going to, on all of our future innovations, we're going to continue to file. And that's super important too. Just making sure that, you've got protection around your inventions and your ideas. Yeah. So if somebody tries to knock something off, you can hopefully protect your hard work.
For sure. Yeah. Okay. I've got one last question for you.
Sure.
So you've been deeply engaged with really the startup ecosystem here in the state of Indiana. And I would say, ask, how do you see the ecosystem evolving, in the next 5 years? And what have you seen that's maybe different than what it was 10 years ago here?
Yeah.
In Indiana? What have you seen?
Great question. And I would say Startup South Bend, Elkhart, right, our support organization in collaboration with Elevate Ventures, the support for startups is incredible, right? It really is relative to other states, other geographies. I'll tell anybody, right? Indiana, if you want to start a business, great place. South Bend, if you want to start a business, such a great place. Yeah. The resources they can provide you with from a capital perspective, from a customer perspective, from a prototyping perspective. The state has just done such a phenomenal job making sure those resources are available, encouraging things with SBIR, STTR program. Yep. So the wealth of resources and what they've built in terms of the ecosystem to support a company, I just don't know if we'd exist without it, right? Yeah. It's and we've been able to be what I think is relatively successful because of it. And so, just if somebody's looking to start a business, Indiana or the South Bend region in general, it's the support system is so, I just can't speak highly enough about
Sure.
it. So it's great. And, where I see it going in the future is they just continue to invest more and more, right? And things like Sports Tech HQ, right?
Sure.
Where you've got, vertical support in logistics, and you've got it in, med tech and some different areas. Now in sports tech, right? The organizations that the state is, partnering and making sure that are available to support startups it really is like a make or break situation, right?
Yeah.
Startups are just teetering always on that line of success and running out of cash, right? Or just,
Oh, for sure.
not being able to see the, all your efforts to come to fruition. But, that's what I see, right? The state just continues to, the resources that are provided, I can't think there's a place that has better, right? Support from, public-private partnerships. But then in addition, it's not like they're stopping, right? They just continue to invest in more and more support. And it just, it makes our jobs just so much easier. And I'm sorry, the support has just been phenomenal.
That's
so
good to hear. Yeah. It's super important. Yeah, for the state, providing that spark, and they continue to add fuel, to the entrepreneurship ecosystem here.
Yeah.
Indiana is one of the top 2 states to start a business.
Yeah.
I mean, that says a lot.
Yeah.
All right, that's Gavin Ferlic, co-founder and CEO of TayCo Brace. Gavin, thanks so much for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, good. And to our listeners, thank you for tuning into this episode of Sports Tech HQ. If you enjoyed this conversation, please subscribe to our podcast and leave us a review. And remember, stay tuned for our next episode where we'll be exploring another exciting innovation in the world of sports tech.